Hey everybody, Pastor Steve here at Anchor. I want to touch base and talk to you about some changes that are happening in our state. If you haven't heard, I don't know how you have not, but if you haven't, let me be the bringer of good news. New York State is lifting all of its COVID restrictions. They're doing that because we've reached a 70% vaccination with those who are eligible to be vaccinated, over 50% overall of all living humans in New York State. And the infection rate, or the number of people getting COVID, is insanely low, especially here in Erie County. We're talking single digits. It's much lower than it has ever since the start of the pandemic in March of 2020. And so for that reason, they've gotten rid of all restrictions. And so the question then is, well, what does that mean for us here at Anchor? And I do want to say a couple things. Like, one, I probably haven't done enough of these update videos, and I apologize for that. If I were to be honest and plain with you, I think I'm just annoyed with so many other people's update videos that I was like, I just don't got it in me. That's not a good reason, is it? So I apologize. Second thing I want you to remember or know is that we as a church have always gone with the science as best as they knew at the time. We've always erred on the side of safety and precaution to care for our faith community, but also the surrounding community and city. And we've always advocated for people to become vaccinated, get their vaccination in order to protect themselves and others. So that's always been our philosophy. And so we've gone with it, right? We've done all of the things, followed those rules and guidelines. We did not fight them. We embraced it, even though it was painful and it took a toll on all of us. Personally, it took a toll on our organization and our church body, but we embraced that and said, if this is what it takes to love each other and love our city, this is what we're going to do. And so with all of that said, we've been pretty, I don't want to use the word conservative because that can get confusing, but we've been very much in favor of going above and beyond the precautions. So, we've remained closed until 4 weeks ago when we reopened in person, and then we've slowly, people could come in, but they wore masks the entire time, and we have seating charts and all this stuff, and slowly we've peeled a couple of those back, but with this latest update, it brings about some pretty big changes. And so that's why I'm making this video. And so I hope you'll stick with me for a few minutes as I explain what it's going to look like for our church moving forward. And then just a quick encouragement and maybe even a little bit of a commercial for Sunday's message. So with all the changes that have taken place, what does that mean for us? It means this. Coming this Sunday, you do not have to pre-register for Anchor Church. You don't have to go online and tell us you're coming. When you come here, you do not have to wear a mask, and you do not have to socially distance. If you want to wear a mask, you can, and nobody's going to look down on you for that. Nobody's going to give you an eye, but it's completely optional, okay? As far as social distancing, we're going to have 2 pews and then the balcony that we're going to reserve for those who would still like to keep a little bit of space between them and others, just to be sensitive, again, to where you're at. We know that everybody's at a different place, and so that'll be the case. Also, this Sunday, singing will resume, and so we are really excited about that. Maybe one of the hardest things I've ever done is to stand in a church service with worship music playing, and not lift my voice. That's been difficult. So that's resuming this week as well. Again, children will be in the service. If you feel more comfortable with keeping them masked for the time being, that's more than fine as well. On that topic, we are moving quickly to reopen Anchor Kids. We don't have a firm date for that yet, but we are trying to make that happen in the next couple weeks. The biggest factor in making that happen will be ministry partners. Now, I just want you to know our expectation is that those who serve in Anchor Kids are fully vaccinated. We want you to, as a parent, to be able to trust that when you're dropping your kids off, that you're dropping them off into safe hands. And so our expectation is that they are fully vaccinated. Some of our ministry partners may feel more comfortable wearing a mask for the time being, and that's okay as well. But just know they've been vaccinated. When it comes to our spaces that the kids will be in, we are moving back into our traditional spaces. And so the kids will move back into classrooms just like they were before. When it comes to children and masking, this is where things get a little bit hazy. The New York State has lifted mask requirements for summer camps and for daycares. Our understanding is they were going to lift them for schools, but there's only a week or a week and a half left in the school year, and they just didn't want to cause the school districts a ton of work. But again, we know that if you are unvaccinated, the best way for you to protect yourself is to wear a mask and to protect others. So mask wearing does the trick if you're not vaccinated. And so because the kids that are part of our ministry are young enough that they're not vaccinated, that would be the safest thing to do. Now, we also have to keep in mind that right now, the infection rate, like the spread in our county, is so abysmally low in a great way that the chances or the risk of kids catching or spreading COVID in our ministry is really, really low and improbable. But that's a risk that we are not going to take into our own hands. So we're asking this. Parents, if you want to send your kids to Anchor Kids wearing a mask, it'll be just like them going to school all year. So no harm, no foul. If you say, no, I'm fine, I don't think the risk is that great, and I'm tired of forcing my kid to wear a mask and it's tough for them, then that's fine as well. We're just going to ask that you sign like a little release or a little paper, check mark a box that says, hey, I don't want my kid to have to wear a mask. He can go to Anchor Kids without it. So that's the way we're going to walk that line. But again, I want to be very clear. The most precautious thing one can do if you're not vaccinated is wear a mask. And as soon as your child is able to be vaccinated, we're saying, hey, the science, if they're saying it's safe, we're with that, and we want to encourage that. So just want to be really clear about that. Working hard towards that. We're also going to be bringing back coffee, and we're actually in the coming weeks working really hard to do some more exciting things with that, and have some more options with our beverages. And we'll be announcing that through our normal newsletter, emails, Facebook, and all of that. The very last thing is something that you all know, but we've just got to be really clear. If you have a fever or any sort of cold symptoms like a cough, a sneeze, if you're under the weather, now is not the time to man up and go to church. Okay, stay home. If your kid has a fever, if they have a cough, if they're not feeling well, stay home. Okay, it's not even just for the fact that again, we want to cut down on illness, but just the emotional anxiety that causes is not good right now. Okay, so please stay home, stay safe. Our online option is getting better by the week, and so I want to encourage you to take advantage of that. Use that to attend until you're all feeling well again. This is exciting, but I know at the same time that it can really breed or cause some anxiety and fear in people, and I want to tell you why. The reason that is because you and I have just spent the last 15 months changing all of our routines and habits, which is not an easy thing to do. We've changed them all for the sake of loving and caring for ourselves and the people around us in our community. We've been doing this because it's the right thing to do. We've built these new habits. Now, the interesting thing about habits is they don't just affect what we do, but how we think and how we feel. And this is something we're going to get into on Sunday morning, because I think it has powerful implications for how we follow Jesus and how we feel about God. But we have to understand, and we have to be gracious, that these kind of changes to our habits are going to elicit those feelings. And I just want you to be aware of that as well. You and I made a lot of decisions last year, and they were conscious decisions, and I think most of us would say, Now, maybe we could have a debate whether or not it's true. Most of us would say we were doing it in a rational, reasonable way. That in light of what was happening and with the information we were given from experts, we made a rational decision about what to do next. Now, here's the trick. And we were actually, listen, if we're being honest, some of us were kind of judgmental or kind of like put off by maybe people who were pushing back against that, right? Who were angry at restrictions, who weren't maybe, in our eyes, making decisions in a reasonable, rational way. But now it would seem that maybe the tables have turned. We need to be careful that we need to be mindful of our feelings and our emotions and our anxiety. We need to pause and say, why am I feeling this way? I would ask you to use the same reason, same rationality in making decisions for you and your family now that we're moving out of the pandemic and out of these restrictions. Is your response to the lifting of restrictions based on the science and the state of our county and city? Or is it based out of just a fear that you have built a new way of living and now somebody's challenging you to change that? Now again, we know that all of our church family, every individual family is at a different place with this wrestling with all of these changes. And we're fine with wherever you're at. As a pastor, as somebody who cares about you and your soul and your emotional, mental well-being, I'm just asking you to pause and take a moment to reflect and process. How do you feel about this news? And why do you feel that way? It's probably time for me to end because I hear some kids in the preschool going crazy. But I'm just saying, we're going to talk more about habits, more about how they affect our lives and our minds and our hearts this Sunday. So whether I see you in person, unmasked and singing, or you watch us online with your family for the time being, either way, I hope to see you on Sunday. I hope you're well, and I hope that we continue to move towards a life after the pandemic. All right? We love you. We hope to see you soon. Grace and peace, my friends.